on Twitch.
Cool.
Except my Twitch is being weird. So, okay, I believe we are still live.
It says we are live.
Okay. Oh,
Twitch,
thank goodness. Yeah. Okay. Chat, I'm giving you plenty of time to come in. We had a little bit of some technical issues, but we got them all ironed out. This is going to be a lot of fun for your Sunday night, or if the Americans join us, it's their afternoon, I think.
Sunday afternoon, yeah.
Yep. And hopefully they will. We've got a couple of Americans that in fact, our main person in chat is over in America right now. So. Mr. Brent, if he shows up.
Might help for everything out.
Let's see. It's 7:25. Yeah. I'll give y'all some time.
Sorry, this is always just the moment where I have to go through and check like the stream and all that to see if we're coming through all right. So I might be quiet for a few minutes.
That's all right. But you're a bit pixelated, but I'm kind of like.
Who, me?
Yeah. But at this point, you know what? We made it. Let's maybe
yeah,
just
now
keep it
it's
that
okay,
way.
I guess. Right.
Oh, Nana has arrived. Hello, Nana.
Oh no.
Gonna be a fun show tonight. A lot of fun. Yeah. I'm staring at Pete and seeing what he's doing.
Well, I got told something earlier on by Kurt.
Oh.
So I'm just
for audio?
letting someone know, apparently is a big fan of Horace, to come and tune in.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Fill the chat with Horace fans. Yeah.
So, right, I'm just going to run a quick test recording in the background, so once if I tell you to say something, just I'll let you know. So, Kylie?
Yes, I'm talking. This is me talking. Testing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Paul?
Hello. I'm saying words.
Perfect. And I'm also saying words, so cool.
Yay!
Right, I'm just going to go and have a look and see. One sec.
Oh, goodness. Pete, I don't know if you can hear me when you're doing that. I always forget. But if you can, you might want to tell Discord we're live. Brent has arrived. Bueno. The Americans have arrived. For those who don't know, I am American. I'm just living in Belfast.
Right, we should be good on this side. Oh, Brent is here. Bueno.
Yep.
Don't know if you said that already.
I did. I also said if you wanted, Pete, you should probably maybe make an announcement in Discord.
I've done it already.
Oh, well, aren't you on top of things?
I know, it's part of it's what I was doing in the background, just doing my usual stuff that goes unnoticed most of the time.
Yes. Oh, it does not go unnoticed. You're the, what is the opposite of unsung hero? You're the sung hero.
No, never happens.
The bards will sing your praises.
Never.
Forever. But yeah, for the people coming in, this we have special guests, which I will introduce on the show in much more detail. But this is Paul Helman, the developer of Horace, which is a game most of you will be familiar with, especially if you see the little guy, little Horace. He's adorable. I love him.
Yes.
But yes, and I'm going to stop rocking. I have to stop rocking in this chair.
Okay. Let me just go and check something quickly as well.
Oh, goodness. It is quite warm in here.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm in a basement, and I'm warm.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why, but I always forget that.
Oh, I never forget it. I can hear all my, the house electricals going on around me. It sounds like the generators in Fallout.
I can't say I know what they sound like.
Oh, I do. I know it real well.
Of course you do.
And it does. It sounds just like it, and it's just like, oh, is he going to blow up? mic doesn't pick it up.
Well, that's good. Busy man on Twitter.
Yes, come all. Join us for evening of adventure.
We will get started very soon, though.
Yeah, we're not usually this far behind. Now, we're maybe not the world's most promptest team, but we did have a couple of technical difficulties, and I don't know why Discord has suddenly stopped recognizing my microphone.
Really?
Yeah. That's what was messing
well,
my stuff
we can
up.
still hear you, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, now, yeah.
Well, that's what you meant.
I meant earlier. Yeah.
Okay,
In fact,
then.
I should probably move this closer. And chat, as always, let us know, if any one of these guys are too quiet for you, or if I'm too quiet.
That will never happen, Kylie.
I will raise my volume so much. But, yes. Pete, let me know when you are ready, because I am excited. Are you ready?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Is everyone ready to record? Let's get
let's see. Yep, Nana says, I was wondering where you guys were. I know. I had the page open for like 20 minutes. Yeah, wow. Discord was not wanting to play. It just wasn't.
No. We all had to do restarts of respective computers.
2 or 3.
2 times.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
Anyway.
As we already know, we're gonna go over the rules anyway. Chat, ask us all the questions in the world. We might not get to all of them. Some of them we may leave till the end. Some we may find relevant and ask in the middle.
But the usual deal.
Yeah, it's our usual deal. With that said, it's 161, right, Pete?
Indeed.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Try to remember.
I'm recording now, so I'll count you in. So, 3, 2.
Welcome to Rapid Reviews Radio episode 161. A very special episode. Yes, I say that every time because every episode is special to me. They're like my podcast children. But this one really...
161, prolific.
Oh goodness. Yes, I hadn't thought of it that way. But this one really is special. I mean, they're all special, but this one really is. We have a very special guest, developer, Paul Helman, who is a developer of a little game you might know, you might have seen called Horace. It's on basically all of the platforms pretty much, but we'll go over that in more detail, I promise. Mm-hmm. I'm your co-host, Kiley Wilde, and I'm joined by my ever-present co-host, Pete Beckett.
Hello.
And we're kind of going to just charge right in because we were a little bit late. But I do like to check in with our guests and with ourselves every time to kind of get our little nerves out and get things going. So, Paul, I'll start with you. How has your week been?
It's been quite lovely, to be honest.
Good.
I spent most of the week walking.
Excellent.
Live reasonably close to actual countryside. So I've averaged 6 or 7 miles a day.
Yes.
I think I hit 32 today.
Wow.
I was going to say...
32 over the week, not 32 miles a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Popped out for a marathon and a half.
Just a little jaunt. That was all. Oh, that's great.
Just a little stroll round the corner.
That's fabulous.
There's a field reasonably close. I've discovered there's a red kite, the bird of prey, seems to be there. So
yes.
I think I've seen it 4 times this week. I'm hoping the weather will be nice this week as well, so I can pop over there and watch a bird fly.
I've mentioned this on the show a few episodes ago. I don't know what happened to me, but I moved over here to Ireland and I just became a bird watcher. I really like birds now. I don't know what happened.
I discovered it during the lockdown of 2020 when I was walking around my local area and saw swans nesting. I was like walking around there every day and saw just waiting for them to hatch. So yeah, I think we're all there.
Yeah, but Pete, you sent me a picture. Didn't you see? Didn't you have like a tree full of, was it cockatiels or something?
Parakeets.
Parakeets. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's hundreds of them in the summer around this area. They just fly everywhere. They're so cool.
I've never seen a parakeet outside of a cage, which is a terrible thing. But I mean, I didn't know that. And then Pete sent the picture, and it was just a tree full of parakeets. I was just like,
yeah. Didn't I send a video as well? You could just hear them.
Yes, you did.
Walking away the whole time.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened. I was just, we're all bird people now.
Lockdown's done crazy things to people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But Pete, what about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been all right actually. Just worked for the first 3 days of the week and then had the rest of the week off because it was weekend working last weekend.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Thursday I went to go and do some adult stuff, so looking for a wedding venue, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
that's unfortunately came out.
Goodness.
Yeah, did that, and then yesterday I was down in Brighton, so down on the seaside, enjoying the nice weather, and it was lovely. Can't complain at that.
I've never been to Brighton, but it is definitely on my list, because it looks a lot of fun and stuff like that.
It's wonderful until you come across a lot of people on a warm day.
Okay, I'm not a fan of lots of people.
No, so you can walk through the famous area of Brighton. It's called the Lanes. So there's loads of really quaint little shops there and stuff like that. But they're very narrow, as you can imagine. So with lots of people strolling down them, it gets a little packed.
Oh yeah, me and my touch aversion. That just sounds real right up my alley, literally. But yeah. So my week. For anyone who's
I was going to ask, but
actually, my birthday's in a few days, so I've been kind of having one of those self-reflective, where are you in life type weeks. I'm not looking at wedding venues. That's one thing for sure. But I will say,
after my comments, I probably aren't going to be looking for wedding venues too much.
No. She'll be happy. She probably is just as stressed as you are.
She doesn't watch the show, thankfully.
See, you're lucky that way. But I was saying today, I live and die by my iPad. That's like my assistant for everything. And I've had iPads for, I guess, the last 10 years. I guess when they really first came out. I don't know why I prefer those over laptops. I cannot tell you. I don't have a logical reason. I just like them. But today I was typing on mine. I was typing show notes, actually, in the Notepad app or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Notes app.
The Notes app.
And all of a sudden it goes zit, which I've never heard an iPad do. And it just, it's dead. My iPad is dead. And it's 3 months old.
Been a weird technology day for everyone then.
I guess, yeah. We're like Jubilee from the X-Men. We're just shorting out everything. But enough of that palaver. Let's get on to the meat of the story. This is, as I said, I'm very excited for this episode because Paul is in my eyes, a very established dev who's got just tons of experience that I just want to pick his brain and learn everything. Thanks so much. Seismic Cinema has followed.
Hey,
welcome to the show, and thank you very much for the follow. I hope you enjoyed this episode. But yeah, we'll talk first about Horace because that's why we've brought him here, but then I really want to touch on just other things that you've done and stuff. But so for those, I'll do a very, very brief intro. I'll turn over to Pete, and then we'll dive in a little bit more. But Horace is a...
Hang on. Wait, can I stop you there, Kylie?
Yes.
Because
okay.
I actually think it would be better to hear from Paul himself.
Well, I
to
guess
explain his game.
you know what, Pete. That actually makes a lot of sense. Paul, yes. Why don't you?
Yeah, we're so used to introducing other people's games.
It's true. Not used to having the dev himself on the show. Paul, yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Horace and the different platforms and stuff we can find it on and things?
Good lord, I'm terrible at this kind of thing. I'm awful at self-promotion, so I just want to say it's the game that I made with a robot.
Short, sweet, to the point. My favorite.
It's available on all current consoles and PC. I can be certainly more descriptive if you wish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a how would you describe it? Like a 2D style, 2D art style pixel art?
It's I pitched it describing it as a cinematic 2D platform adventure.
That's it. Yes.
There's lots of story and lots of gameplay.
It's also got a lot of Easter eggs and fun stuff, which I just like. Guys, this game for real, like, is so much fun.
Yeah.
I saw Pete was playing it today. Yeah.
I was playing it this afternoon, and I was pleasantly surprised by how British it was.
Yes.
Yes. A little bit, to say the least.
Yes, that's actually one of the points I wanted to point out. You know, obviously, as an American coming in on this, it was like the Britishness really stands out, and it's adorable.
Thank you.
Oh, it's also heartbreaking at times as well, though, from what I was seeing. But I won't go into spoilers, of course.
Yeah, no, I don't want to spoil it because I want our viewers and watchers to go out there and play this. Because it is, so this description is not my favorite description, but this word, would you say it's a Metroidvania? Does it fit in that?
Yes. It's slightly more linear than your average Metroidvania.
Yeah.
And it's story driven. I do know that. That's my favorite, absolute favorite genres. Anything that's story driven. So that right there. I am the type. So here's the difference between Pete and I, and this will be good for our listeners, watchers, so they can see where they fall in this. Pete loves platformers, just full stop. I like games that have a story. I don't care what they are. They can be shooters. They can be platformers. They can be anything. Okay, so this is a side-scrolling platformer with a story. So it had me hooked. I was just, drawn to it for that reason. So what the thing about side-scrolling platformers for our younger audience that might not have as much familiarity with it is there's a lot of like you have timing comes into play. I guess it's kind of you have to, there's puzzles and things like that. I guess you could say puzzles and, stuff like that. And it's side-scrolling, so...
Well...
Which is literally what that means, by the way, for our young people.
I would say it's a side-scroller, but there's a lot of verticality to it that I wasn't expecting. A lot of environmental puzzles as well.
Yes! It's really... We're trying not to... You could tell Pete and I are tiptoeing because we don't want to give anything away.
The main gameplay at any point is generally making it from one end of the screen to the other and working out how to do that.
Yeah, it felt to me like it was a very typical, very old school way of doing platformer games, kind of like the Dizzy games.
Yes.
From the ZX Spectrum.
Yeah. And now that...
I'm slightly before even that, so I'm Jet Set Willy. Well, I'm not Jet Set Willy, that would be weird. I'm not a white stick man. But I'm from, that sort of era.
So,
funnily enough, I didn't know about Jet Set Willy until about 5 years ago when I had to play it for another podcast I was on, and my God, it's aged fantastically well, but also quite badly.
Yes.
The gameplay is still spot on. The actual gameplay, but
It's just stiff as hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once you press the jump button, there is no turning back.
Yes. Yes. But that is funny that, you've got the Commodore 64, monitor back there and think,
Yes.
so that makes me think, is that a throwback to, what is it, Hungry Horace? The series of games? Or is that just a coincidence?
I was very careful about that because I was aware of the character. It has nothing to do with it. But I was trying to work out a name for the game, and I was looking through ancient philosophers, and obviously Horace is one of the more prolific.
Absolutely.
I was using quotes as well by famous people, so using a quote by a philosopher would make a lot of sense. I think there's 5 by the actual Horace.
Is that the quotes that you have at the start of each chapter?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
But at the same time, I didn't want to tread on their toes. But I became aware that there wasn't actually a game called Horace. It was
Right.
just Horace and the Spiders. Horace goes skiing.
Yes.
He does stuff. So I was like, okay, well, my game's called Horace then.
That's great. Because I've always known the other one as Hungry Horse.
Yes.
But at the same time, I love that. I didn't realize. I don't know why. Sometimes I can be a bit slow to put things together. That's amazing. I love that. Another thing that I really, really, really like. I'm gonna say if I explain this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, because my show notes are half gone. So when you're playing Horace, am I wrong? But don't you have I guess it is you. Oh, that's so weird. We're not used to having devs on the show. But isn't it like if you're having trouble in an area, the game kind of almost self-corrects? It learns your playstyle? I'm probably using the wrong terms here, but to help you progress?
Yes.
I love that.
There is a reasonable amount of adaptive gameplay.
Yes.
In the fact that obviously the game was mostly made by myself and my friend Sean, but also our producer at 505 Games. He's literally the same age. I think he's 2 months older than me, and has a very similar background in games.
Oh wow, that's excellent.
And we discovered quite quickly that all 3 of us are quite good, and when I say quite good, we're very good at old school Mario style platforming games.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when I first let friends play it, they found areas frustratingly hard. So obviously it made sense to then try and adapt. Subsequently, we spawn a shield. If you die 8 times in an area, we spawn 2 shields if you die 16 times. And then bosses do similar things, whereby if you die a certain amount of times on various bosses, you only need to cause like 2 amounts of damage instead of 3, and then it goes down to 1. Basically, I like difficult games, but at the same time, there's a lot of story, so I don't want people that don't like difficult games to get stuck in the same room for an hour and a half and then hate the game and not want to continue and see the story. So yeah, that was the main thinking.
I think that's a wonderful kind of fail-safe added in, because we've talked before on this show about the difficulty of Elden Ring. I'm going to talk about that. Elden Ring, all of the Bloodborne, Soulsborns, all of those, I'm not particularly a fan of, but I do appreciate the fandom and encourage fandom everywhere for all video games. But I, again, as a very story-driven player, I've never quite glommed onto the story of Elden Ring, and I do think it could be because you get very frustrated. I have to put it away. I'll come back to it. I love a challenge, but I need a break, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when you have something like this built in, the frustration dissipates. and you get to continue to enjoy the story, which to me is like I wished all games did that. I find that very novel. I find it very it just elevates it in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of players out there, and stuff like that, because let's be honest, some old school arcade games, the one with the frogs, I forgot what are they called, the frogs that were like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, the Battletoads.
Battletoads, that's it. They're not frogs, they're toads. Battletoads was really hard. It was really difficult. It was a beautiful game, and it was fun. But then you get stuck on this one area, and I never was able to progress.
You mean the cave?
Yes.
Where you drop down?
Yes, that.
Yes.
But my point being, I was never able to progress, so I never got to enjoy the full game. Whereas with something like this, with an adaptive feature like that, I can keep going, and I just love that. I just think that's like so. Can we just put that in all games from here on out?
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be very nice. Very nice.
It's shockingly easy to implement, to be honest.
Well, see, that's what I was wondering. Like, when you said, because I didn't realize there was kind of of course there would be in development, a numerical basis for it. But the way you described it, you die, 16 times and you get 2 shields, or, however it was. That just seems so, yeah. It just makes sense. It's like, that just makes sense. It doesn't seem that very, difficult or whatever. Of course, I am not a developer, so I'm sitting here being like, that ain't difficult. Yeah. No. But,
I had a quick question. So when it came to accessibility and making it a little bit easier for players, was that why the concept of the infinite lives was introduced as well?
The infinite lives was there essentially from the beginning, because going back to Jet Set Willy, as fun as that is, trying to collect all whatever it is, 300 objects in 9 lives, I think it is.
It's 9 lives. It is 9 lives. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, in the 2020s, seems an insane task to offer players. And it's something I find slightly frustrating with a lot of Metroidvanias is, although you do have infinite continues, you will die in a certain area and lose that progression, and it will chuck you back to the last time that you saved or the last town you were in or whatever. And then you still have to retread back through 10 minutes of gameplay to get back to the boss or whatever to continue the game. So that was the main reason for the infinite lives, so that it was just keep going over and over and over as many times as you want. Again, to stop frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that checkpointing system was very generous, actually. So it wouldn't always put you at the very beginning of the room. It might put you halfway through if you got through a certain point of it, which I felt was quite nice, actually.
Yeah.
I again often went through almost mathematically, and it was usually sort of 10 or 12 objects to either jump over or avoid, and then a restart point. So obviously shorter rooms would fit within those 10 or 12 objects. But there are some rooms, I don't know if you've got to the mansion where it becomes proper Metroidvania, but the ballroom in there, I think, has 5 or 6 restart points, because there's 30 or 40 objects in the room. It's absolutely huge, and there's chaos.
Yeah, so to put it into perspective of where I got to, I just got past where you learn the grab move for the first time, and you're doing the tutorial with playing basketball. Yes. And then you're going through the caverns, I think, after that.
Yeah.
That is the mansion, but you're 5 hours away from the bit I'm talking about.
Okay.
But yeah, it is.
I forgot to mention that a little bit as well, that Horace gets abilities, which I love. Which, it's kind of funny because last week we were talking about Zelda and, Breath of the Wild, and then Tears of the Kingdom and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of makes me think, like, that's what I loved about the Zelda games, is that you, as you went on, you would get abilities and you would gain, like, oh, you can't pass this point till you have, ultra hand or whatever, pick whatever, and that's why, like Horace feels like a throwback to all of that stuff, and it really does. I kid you not, it just slams down on that nostalgia button. It's so good. Like, we went through a period there, probably 2016 to 2020, where people were just making pixel art games, like just making them. That was just an aesthetic or something like that. And it would strike people probably like me and Pete and go, oh, pixel art, oh, childhood, I'm going to play this. And then it wouldn't be that. No, Horace is 100% that you're just immediately sent back to that. And that is, I love that feeling. I am a sucker for that when it's done right. And it is done absolutely right.
It really is.
Yeah. And that's why I cannot stress this enough. If you haven't played it, why haven't you played it? Go play it now.
It's also very cheap on Steam at the moment.
Yeah, so most of our people get their stuff off of Steam. So yeah, head over there. Go now. Well, go after the show. Stay here.
Listen first, play later.
Also, another thing that I love, I am a huge sucker for collectibles in games. And Horace has collectibles, and it has a secondary objective, if I am not mistaken, of collecting 1 million units of rubbish, as they say in the good old Brit land, by the game's end. And I am like, that just hits all my right buttons. I'm just like, okay. So if you love collecting things in games, again, here's another plus in the column, the win column, as they call it. So I kind of want to go through the development type thing. When did this idea hit you? How did it come about?
We couldn't say when some of the ideas came about, because it would have been during childhood.
Right. Yes. Okay.
But I downloaded Game Maker.
Oh goodness.
In 2010, Game Maker 2 Pro.
Oh wow.
Let's go back some as well.
I remember that. Oh wow.
Basically, to mess around in my spare time. I've been developing games professionally since the start of 1995, so I'd already been making games for 15 years at that point.
Oh, wow.
So I knew what I was doing. But basically, I thought, right, I'll make a simple, old-school, collect them up platformer. Little robot, goes around the house, collects a lot of items, and it went all out of control and took 9 years till the original version came out on Steam. And the little robot obviously became Horace, and the decent amount of items, as you say, became 1 million.
Yes.
So...
Love that. Again, as a collector, I love that.
Yeah, I'm not usually one for collectathons, but I did find myself going through every room and trying to find as much as possible, or everything.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It is very secondary. There is purpose to it, both storyline and gameplay. But you don't. You literally don't have to get everything in every room unless you really want to. Because to even get the million, there's just over 1.25 million items in the game.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Again, just to make it slightly easier for people, because there's so many rooms and locations in the game, to force the player to search absolutely everywhere, I thought would be incredibly cruel. So yeah, we just slightly overstocked everything.
Yeah, there's also some areas where it can be quite tough to collect stuff because you've got enemies on screen and there are larger items to obviously try to collect.
There are, obviously I don't want to spoil things, but there are upgrades to your collecting ability later on.
Nice.
That's the other thing, upgrades.
To make collecting easier, shall we say.
Yeah. I did feel that the upgrade system actually was quite generous, really, and it comes in at the right sort of time, really. When you feel like you need the ability, that's when it introduces it to you very well.
That's it's kind of written backwards in that way. In that I came up with the abilities and then designed the area around the abilities and then slotted the areas together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
That actually fits a question that we have in chat. Pete, do you want to read it, or you want me to?
I can do it. So
The
this is from Nana.
last
He
one,
said,
yeah.
he said, how much did you have to scale down from your initial idea?
Yeah.
A not huge amount from the initial idea, but there was reasonable amounts chopped from various chapters. Obviously, by the time I was working with 505, they started funding me in 2015.
Right.
So we had 4.5 years of funding. And obviously they were very keen to release something after that time.
Of course, yeah.
Which is kind of fair enough. But to be honest, 90% of what I wanted storyline is in the game. There's a reasonable amount of mini games that didn't make it, and there's a couple of sections which didn't make it, but it's certainly coherent to what I originally came up with 13 years ago now, which is quite strange to see how little it changed, to be honest, in that 13 years.
No, that's great, because I think the only kind of parallel I could even see is Underworld. From idea to Undertale. Sorry, I don't know. Might have been watching some movies earlier today. Undertale. Which
I thought that was what you said. What did you say originally?
I said Underworld. I don't know why.
Oh. Okay. Beckett movie.
Yeah, I was watching vampires earlier, but I meant Undertale. So
you reset to Undertale.
Yeah, because I mean it fits what we're talking about. Undertale. Toby Fox, I think.
Toby Fox, yeah.
Yeah. Idea to implementation. He got to keep most of his ideas. That's a very rare thing, and I'm very pleased to hear that. Basically, you got to keep the main idea, the main ideas, and everything. But I don't want to give anything away. But we could say it's. Can we say it's kind of post-apocalyptic? Is that stretching things a bit, or you think okay? And I think that doesn't give anything away.
I'm not saying anything. That was a bit of a turn. I will not lie.
I just love the idea behind it, obviously. So was there a one thing that kind of this idea was based around, or as you said, was it just things gathered from childhood, from just living life and having an active imagination?
Certainly that. But the two key things are Jet Set Willy.
Yes.
Literally the design of the robot with his nice hat.
Yes.
Is very similar to the silhouette of Jet Set Willy with his nice hat.
Yes.
It's literally why the robot has a large black eye, because if you scale the sprite of Jet Set Willy up, his eye becomes quite large and black.
Oh, right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, to keep it...
Okay, I kind of thought it was a Clockwork Orange reference.
Yes, with the hat. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the hat in particular, I was going to say the other reference is the 1980 Peter Sellers film Being There. Where, of course, a mentally challenged man leaves his house. He's late middle age, maybe 50. He leaves his house for the first time and goes on a big adventure wearing a nice hat.
Yeah.
I wanted to evoke that very much.
That's very good.
An innocent character experiencing the world on his own for the first time in a nice hat.
I love that.
I think we're gonna have to go and watch that movie now.
Oh, it's very good.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, most things that Peter Sellers is really good. If I do, I think so anyway. That adds such depth that, I mean, it's a deep symbolic story anyway as you go through it, but that just adds a whole nother layer. I think this is just wonderful. But, yeah, so let's talk without giving stuff away, but there's a lot of in-jokes and Easter eggs. How fun was that, putting those in there?
This is the thing. Obviously, I essentially drew literally everything you see in the game.
Okay.
So I have to draw brick walls, trees, bushes, roads, fun stuff like enemies, and then dull things like tiles.
Yes.
So obviously, to entertain myself, essentially, it was fun to draw other things to put in the background.
Of course.
If I have to draw a building, I might as well make it a recognisable building. If I have to draw some background characters, I might as well make them recognisable background characters.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it generally takes as long to put a reference in as to draw the same object as not a reference. So that's mainly the reason there's so many. But the other thing is, obviously, barely any of them actually make any difference to the story. So it is all just background stuff. You don't need to get the jokes and references in the background. They are literally Easter eggs, and if people enjoy them, it's great.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Easter eggs. I'm just a sucker for everything in this game. I just might as well admit that.
So I wanted to actually ask, like, how did it come about that you eventually got published by 505?
Literally my next question, Pete. You read my mind. That is crazy.
I'd made the first 20%, essentially up to where you've gotten to, not the basketballs, but literally the point before then.
Okay, yeah.
I'd made that literally entirely by myself. I'm a terrible coder. That's one of the reasons it took so long. But I was able to put enough together to make that. But I then realised at that point it had taken me 5 years to make that. And obviously to make all of Horace, as I say, that's the first 15, maybe 20% of the game. To make all of it at that speed, we're talking maybe 30 years to finish what we got done. So I figured I probably needed help, and like I say, that my main problem was coding. So as I say, I've worked in video games for a long time, and a good friend of mine is a chap called Sean Scapelhorn. So I asked him if he would be interested, and he would, but obviously he wanted paying.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, fair enough. It is his job.
Yeah.
Big shock, someone who wants to work for a living.
Exactly. So at that point, I thought, right, let's treat this slightly more seriously, because I was working on all sorts of other things whilst making Horace in the background. I worked on a High School Musical educational game.
Oh, wow.
A truly terrible Doctor Who game for the Wii. I'll stop listing stuff there.
We have to talk about
so
that.
I could fund working on Horace for a few hours in the evening and weekends and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to get Sean involved, I started looking for publishers, and it was early 2015. Sean, in a trade magazine called Develop, there was an advert for a developers conference in London, and it was, I can't remember how much it was, but it was remarkably cheap to register and go along. So we just went along to that, and the conference, whoever had arranged it, had given us, I think it was 7 interviews with different publishers.
Oh, wow.
I think 5 of them were vaguely interested and started the conversation. 3 of them were then very interested, and 505 Games just offered the best deal, and not to sound evil and capitalist, but the most money.
Well, look, you know what? Money funds dreams.
It does.
Oh, that's excellent. So what was the kind of speed of development after 505 kicked in?
Oh, well, that was perfect then. We were able to work full time. So
That's excellent.
I went from working a few hours a day to insanely working 15 hours a day.
Oh gosh.
Um, One thing which I'm massively thankful for our producer for, Dean, is about 18 months in, he realised I had taken a total of 6 days off.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And he told me to take a couple of weeks off, and I literally just went and stayed in a nice hotel for a couple of weeks and did some
Oh, very
walking.
nice.
Became a human again, vaguely, for a couple of weeks. Yeah, so
I
that
can
was the main
relate.
thing. But obviously, it was great then having Sean, because we then worked as a team, and things really rolled. Whereas before, it would take me a week to get one small section going. We could get a couple of sections in a day going and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh right.
The well, not famously, but there's a section. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a homage to Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And the boss in the section is it's a series of mini games which ends with you in a Zelda-like, traditional top-down Zelda-like environment, which then has a boss within the boss section who is the Queen of Hearts.
Oh yes.
And this bit just basically ramps up with more and more games layering on top of itself.
Oh, right.
And we essentially made 7 mini games in a week and a half.
Wow.
Whilst Dean was on holiday, he had no idea we were doing it. We told him we were making a boss fight with the Queen of Hearts, and he came back and we presented him with this, and it was really ropey when we gave him it because we'd made 7 games.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever it was, 10 days.
Yeah.
But obviously he found it hilarious, and we just polished them up, and it turned into what it is. They're all Spectrum games, so they're not.
Oh, nice.
Still though,
things, but yeah, it's.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite sections. It was just because we made whatever it is. I don't know. It's anywhere up to about half an hour's worth of gameplay in a week or two.
That is
Wow.
massively impressive, and I mean, especially at indie level, that is mind-blowingly impressive, actually.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if any AAA devs can get that kind of work done in a week with like large teams as well. So fair play to you both for getting that done in such a short space of time.
Especially nowadays. So okay, here's what I'm unfamiliar with, if you wouldn't mind indulging me. So when 505, became the publisher, did they have like a platform in mind? Did they go, okay, we're going to be Windows based or something? Or do all the platforms happen at once?
It was reasonably open-ended, in that they funded us to make a PC version, which we then released. That was not exactly successful, but successful enough for them to want us then to make a Switch version, which we made and released in 2020.
Right.
Again, that didn't set the world on fire, but it slowly sold. We were able to release a physical version with super rare games.
Yes. I wanted to talk about that.
Which kind of did set the world on fire in that it sold 4,000 copies in just under 4 hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
It was insane watching hundreds of copies shifting in real time.
Wow.
I remember seeing that in real time actually with Super Rare, because I know a couple of the guys over there.
Yeah,
and it was probably one of their more successful runs at that time as well, which was more surprising.
That is amazing. That must have felt amazing.
Yeah, that was absolutely lovely. I think it went on sale at 6 p.m. And I was making dinner, so I wasn't actually at the computer or anything. And by the time I sat down, it was 10 or 15 minutes later, and I had so many messages and everything on Twitter from people saying, "You should watch it. It's selling." And the thing was, even by the time I got over to their website, it was don't know, about 6:30, and I think a third of the stock had sold.
Oh my
Like literally 1,500 copies had sold in like half an hour, and I was like, oh.
Oh my gosh, I know that must
Amazing.
have been great. Ah, I can just imagine. Oh my gosh, yeah. For those who don't know, and you should know, Super Rare releases physical copies of games with sometimes little extra things like instruction booklets.
Yeah,
Type
sometimes
things.
extra slip covers and stuff like that.
Which
Because
we'll tell you that we're all old enough to tell you that those were very fun growing up and having booklets and instructional things and extra little
Yes.
leaflets and stuff.
I miss an instruction manual in games these days.
there is a book in the super rare edition of Horace, but obviously because the instructions would be a spoiler, revealing them in a big list of how to do all the tasks.
Yes.
The book included in the physical version is just a nice little art book with some
Okay.
I love
and
that.
prints and other bits and bobs. But it's nice. It's a nice physical thing.
That is amazing.
So was it the success of that run that then led for 505's turning around and saying we want a PS4 and an Xbox One version?
Yes, literally. And obviously we, thanks to the pandemic, my memory of the last 3 years is all over the place, as I'm sure everyone.
Yes, no, 100% there. Yeah.
I sat indoors for 3 years.
Oh
and
gosh,
I made
yes.
wines.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh goodness. Yeah. This podcast came about because of the lockdown, so.
Well, it started before that, but it really ramped up as a result of the lockdown.
Yeah, that
But
kept
yeah,
our
no,
sanity, but yes.
This was it. The physical version was last February, and then I was in talks again with 505 after that.
Right.
And then we started June last year, and then obviously we released the PlayStation and Xbox version. Literally the end, 28th of February, just gone.
Yeah.
So coming into March.
So how was it actually developing for both consoles at the same time?
Yes.
We didn't literally develop at the same time. We just did one after the other, but we put them into tests. So we believe I should know this. It was only this time last year. We worked on the PlayStation version first, and there was a bit of issue setting up the Xbox dev kit, which was momentarily terrifying when I had to reinstall the OS on it. And there was a point where I wasn't sure what I was installing because I downloaded. Sean had basically managed to get hold of the OS, which I'd put on a stick and put in it.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if I was putting it on the consumer OS, and I wasn't sure if I was then going to be able to put the developer OS back on it. And if I wasn't, would I owe Microsoft a couple of grand for effectively breaking the dev kit? So that was fun. But it worked. It wasn't quite as
that's
scary.
good.
It could have been. Essentially, from my point of view, because I don't do hardly any coding in the game, I just played the game lots and fixed any visual and audio bugs and anything wrong with cutscenes, all that kind of things. Anything internally, at some point there was a problem with one of the collisions, which meant you would fall through certain types of floor. So I wasn't entirely sure, and it was something to do with the physics. But we developed Horace in Unity. So obviously I don't want to belittle Sean's job, but a lot of his job was then pressing the PlayStation button and then pressing the Xbox button, and then similarly testing and fixing any bugs which came up. Obviously his bugs were far more complicated than mine, but I believe the process, thanks to Unity, was significantly more simple than it would have been even 10 years ago.
Fair enough. We also had a
Yes,
question about the
absolutely.
Switch version as well. So Nana
Oh,
asked, did the Switch version port well? I have a friend that Switch port didn't port very well at all.
it went perfectly, I believe. There is a small bug in the game which has made it in, but it doesn't kill it. The only thing is, if you time an up press when you get on a train, the robot will freeze looking upwards, and you can glide him around inside the train in that
Yeah.
frame, but you can't get him off the train, so you have to
Right.
quit to menu and restart. But it
Oh, that's a
runs.
shame.
It runs. It's you really have to time it. I've only managed to do it once myself.
Oh, okay.
I've only ever seen like 2 other people do it, literally by accident. But no, the game runs at full 60 frames per second, and it plays
Nice.
same as the PC version, I believe.
Yeah, I did notice that. I've got the frame counter up when I
See,
was playing it, and it just stayed solid 60 the entire time. No
that
drops, no nothing.
that is very
Excellent.
important to Pete. That is very important.
Yep.
Yes. Well, do you see? I'm gonna just jump right in here and say. So what do you see as the future for Horace? Are you going to continue this Horace universe?
Um, yes, the Horace cinematic
That's
universe.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, I'd love to get a Horace 2 together at some
Yeah.
point. I do have many ideas for other games, but of course, I had many ideas for other games before Horace, but they all got pushed into Horace. So
Right.
I'm sure all of my current ideas, should I make a Horace 2, will end up in there as well.
Oh, I would love to see that happen, because that is one thing that you notice for our listeners and our watchers, that when you're playing Horace, that it's bursting with ideas, and I mean that in the best way possible. There's so much possibility there. And on this show, I talk often that I'm a big lore fan. Again, story driven games are my thing. That is absolutely my draw. And Horace actually weirdly has like a lot of lore. There's it's really cool. It's so up my alley, type of thing. And I think it can be absolutely expanded on 100%. I would love to see that happen. And type of things.
90% of the game is set in Kent, where I live.
I didn't realize that.
The little county that sticks out at the bottom of England under London.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm actually not overly far from Kent myself. So.
Yes. Oh, let me just tell you guys. I mean, I said this at the top of the show, and I'm reiterating it now. As an American coming into this, there are some things I'm going to miss, obviously, but it's very British. It's quintessentially British, and it just brings a charm on its own for that type of thing. Which kind of leads me to my next question. So the British indie dev scene, it's really kind of flourished, I feel, in the last few years. Do you get that kind of impression that it's really coming along with a lot of indie devs?
Fortunately, I'm probably the worst person to ask. I worked in-house for big developers until 2000.
Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
No, we'll talk now. That's fine.
I had enough and left, and then worked freelance, as I say, whilst I was getting Horace together. Subsequently, the only person I really know in game dev is Sean, and I think Sean, the only person he really knows in game dev is me. So we know people at 505 and people at Super Rare and a few other people, but yeah, I mean, I do play a lot of video games, but they tend to be older games. I play a lot of chess and Tetris.
Yes.
Tetris. More, endless puzzle games
Yeah.
and things like that. Just because once I play, I often say this, when I play video games with like stories and things, I can kind of see the Matrix in that all I'm doing is guiding my like collision box of a character around a world from one node to another, triggering things so that the next thing can happen. Like that's all I can see, like from a dev point of view. Like I mean, there are plenty of games that are incredible, and obviously I can just play the game. But so many games I just see that, and it's
well. See, I understand that from 2 points of view, actually. For those who don't know, and if you're familiar with the show, obviously I went to school obviously for creative writing and journalism, and my professor was the poet laureate of Texas, from Texas, and he said the very first day of our very first class, he said, "What I'm going to teach you, you're never going to read a fiction book ever again. You'll never be able to read it because exactly." And then on top of that, I am very good friends with a developer. And he's my roommate, actually. And when I was playing Oblivion for the first time, which I love Bethesda games, and Oblivion was beautiful. And there's a mission where you have to follow one of the NPCs. You have to follow them and blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow him every step of the movie. He goes, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is just trigger this event. And it will happen. I was like, don't tell me that! You're ruining the magic! So, let's explore that a little bit. So, how is it? Like, are your experiences of new games, are they all basically the hitbox, as you were saying? Or can you find the kind of magic? Like, I literally can't read fiction books. They are, unfortunately, I see the skeletons behind, in the closets and stuff. Is it about the same?
It's sort of. I very much enjoy watching friends play games, because I can kind of get lost in their perception of it and things like that. And I think it's also why I do enjoy puzzle games and more abstract things, and it's definitely why Horace is pixel art rather than an attempt at AAA. Whatever.
Right. Realism.
Certainly in my brain, it's more abstract. It's pointillism. It's one layer removed from an actual human face. It's a line with a pixel at the end of it and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So that's the thing. I think I personally find the more abstract a game is, the more I'm going to enjoy it.
Right.
And the more pure a game is, the more, like I say, with Tetris, there's no. I am literally just moving a collision box.
Yes.
There's nothing to worry about.
So bare bones.
That goes there. I'm more likely to enjoy that kind of thing. But at the same time, I have such a ridiculous backlog of games.
Yeah, we all do.
Literally dating back to the 90s.
Oh, goodness.
My chances of actually playing anything new are so slim.
I understand that. I do.
This is I just trying to think what the newest game I played is. I definitely played recent Dark Souls. I was going to say I played the recent Tetris, but obviously I don't think.
Oh yeah, well there you go.
We could talk about that for hours.
I was going to say.
99.
Yep. Yeah, but that's actually weirdly true. We were discussing this a few episodes ago. I myself, I haven't really picked up any AAA games this last 2 or 3 years. I'm playing old games, and I'm playing them on mobile. iPad, again. Last night I discovered... I discovered this a few weeks ago, thanks to our wonderful chat. So Amazon Fire Stick, if anyone's familiar with that, it has an app called the Luna app. That has games on it. It has real games on it. It has retro games on it. Yeah, it's in Pete some pictures. It has old games on it. It has Earthworm Jim on it. which is one of my favorite games of all time. And I think we're like entering a new era. I really do. Where we have access to, I mean, okay, yes, ROMs have been around for decades. We know this, but it's almost becoming mainstream.
But legally speaking.
Yeah, legal. And I kind of find myself also drawn to those retro games that, I grew up with. Which was a very it was weird. It was just very, very strange to go through that list of games, see Earthworm Jim, and get excited. And I really like the direction that's going. And would love to see. We've talked about this a lot as well. Game preservation. I would love to see more of the retro games appearing on new platforms and stuff like that, because there are just decades of ingenuity, of creativity, of ability, out there. I think last week, Pete, didn't you say that the original Zelda was 7 people development team?
No, it was the original Super Mario Brothers.
Was it? Okay. Okay. 9 people. 9 people developed the original Super Mario. We can't lose that. We cannot lose that. And for our listeners and watchers, Horace is an absolute nostalgia homage to that era of absolute creativity. Mm-hmm. And I really do, again, encourage our viewers to please go get this game. You're not going to regret it 1 second. Yeah. Brent says Netflix also has games. I haven't checked them out. I will check those out as well. I checked Luna out on your behalf, on your recommendation. And absolutely, as soon as like Earthworm Jim, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm doing this. Yeah. So, Paul, what do you think yourself with the future of gaming as we're going into this more digital age, as opposed to physical? We talk about that a lot on here. Do you kind of see it as a game preservation type opportunity, or do you think going fully digital is maybe a step back? How do you feel about that?
I find purely digital quite scary.
That's Pete, yeah.
I've worked on plenty of games that you now cannot buy.
Yes, I do understand about
that. But from a distribution point of view, obviously I've sold copies of Horace in China and countries that I wouldn't have thought of selling. So obviously the opportunity of digital is great, but like I say, the permanence of physical is great as well. I'm a big fan of physical media. I have my spare bedroom has I don't necessarily want to say how many, but literally thousands of games, DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs, etc., floor to ceiling shelves, etc. I am one of those people. I'm sure you understand.
I do get it. I do.
But this is it. I guess as long as there's at least a bit of both. I'm a big fan of special editions and big box. I'm literally sat next to a big box game.
Oh goodness!
Oh my goodness!
Oh goodness!
Amstrad CPC. I believe it's actually.
Well, I haven't.
Big boxes.
Yeah,
I love that.
It teaches yourself programming.
That's great.
I haven't seen a big box like that in years. Oh, it's so cool to see again.
Sorry, this is coming on 64. Yeah, I should. I should have used this. Yeah,
that's
excellent. There we go. I should have mounted it behind me. I've got all sorts.
Oh, I love that.
I might know a person who could do that for you. Get in touch with Frame a Game.
Former guest of the show. Yeah. And actually, for our listeners and watchers, there is a YouTuber called Lazy Game Reviews, LGR, and his whole site is dedicated to big box games. and it's so wonderful to see that. Yeah, and he'll do he finds them in the weirdest places. He's over in America. I mean, he goes to thrift stores and stuff like that, but he'll find them sometimes cellophane, just pristine, and he will open them because he's like, come on, these need to be opened, and you'll get to see the instruction manual and all this kind of stuff. The care, and see, that's the thing with me with the physical games, the care and dedication that the artists, developers and stuff put into these, the box art, and the inserts and things like that. We do kind of miss out on that. Now, I am a hybrid. I like physical and digital. I like digital on my consoles and all my stuff, but I like to just look at the physical. So I do have one foot in each argument, we'll say. But having said that, before I go with my next question, Pete, do you want to ask anything before I move on?
Well, most of my questions are to do with your career
There we go.
previous to
See?
Horace, so
Pete
I guess
just
I'll
reads
let
my
Kylie ask
mind.
the
No,
question.
that was okay. So what I wanted to do, Pete reads my mind every time. It is so weird. I want to delve into your career. What got you started in games? What games have you worked on? And what companies you've worked for?
I see now. I always loved video games from a very early age.
Yeah.
My parents bought me a Commodore 64 for Christmas 1986.
Oh,
I
goodness.
was 9.
Oh, wow.
They also gave me a telly as a 9-year-old. It was
Oh,
incredible.
that's, yeah.
I
That's
basically
excellent.
haven't slept since. But the following year for Christmas, my parents bought me an art package and a mouse, which in 1988, well, that would have been Christmas 1987. That was
Wow.
unheard of.
Yes.
I owned a mouse like in 1987.
Oh.
I was a bit of a child prodigy when it came to art. I was very prolific and
Oh, wow.
could draw to the quality of an adult when
Oh,
I
wow.
started school. So basically I was always very good at art and maths. I was top of the school in both art and maths.
Oh, wow.
So I decided to go to art school.
Yes.
As the sensible thing to do.
Yes, it makes sense.
It was either that or become an accountant or something like that.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I was
Not
just
as
like,
fun.
No, I want to draw things.
Yeah.
So I went to Thanet Technical College in Broadstairs, and was kicked out halfway through my first year because I very rarely went.
Oh, I totally relate to that.
Not to be nasty, but I found it slightly beneath me. We were doing a lot of colour theory. This is green, this is red. They're opposites on the colour wheel. And it's just like,
I totally understand.
So, yeah. The other problem was to get to Broadstairs, I had to travel on the train
Oh, yeah.
Margate. And
Oh,
Margate
yeah, not fun.
is a seaside town full of arcades. So I
Yep.
would get off at Margate and spend my dinner money, which my parents had given me, playing. Bearing in mind this was 1992, I was playing Street Fighter 2.
I was gonna say Street Fighter,
racing,
Mortal Kombat.
racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was back in the age when every seaside town had an arcade as well.
I don't
Exactly.
blame you there.
So yeah, and my parents used to give me I think it was sort of £10 a week, so it would be £2 a day for food, and an arcade credit used to be 10p, and older games, there was literally, even though this was the early 90s, there was already some retro arcades. There was
Oh,
one
wow.
which you could pay £2 in modern style, and all the games were on free play, but it was Space Invaders, Pac-Man, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm,
Of course, because I
Oh,
had
wow.
£2 a day to spend on food, it was a perfect way to spend the day.
I love that.
Needless to say,
Yes.
my parents didn't know I was doing this.
Well,
until
right, of course.
I told them at the end of the academic year that I am no longer going to this college. But in the meantime, I'd built up quite a portfolio, and I'd actually been doing a lot of pixel art just in my spare time.
Oh, wow.
And off the back of that, I let's see, at the end of 1993, Edge magazine launched.
Oh,
Yes.
In the back of that, it had trade adverts for wanted programmers, artists,
Oh,
etc.
wow.
So every month, I would just, whether they had an artist advert or not, I would just send everyone in there. Here's my CV. Here's my 3.5-inch disc with approximately 20 images, which was all I could fit on a 3.5-inch disc. And little explanation letter and everything. And for
oh my gosh,
8 or 9 months, I received letters basically saying, "Your artwork is absolutely brilliant. It's professional standard. I'm not going to employ you because you're 16." I then turned 17, and for whatever reason, Probe Entertainment took me seriously. Asked me at the end of 1994 to come in for an interview, which went swimmingly. I then did a test day, literally just before Christmas 1994.
oh my gosh.
And I think it was at 11 o'clock that morning. I'd just been drawing some stuff. I can't remember. I think it was like some pavement textures and stuff. Their creative director or whoever took me aside and basically offered me a job to start at the beginning of 1995. And being a 17-year-old, my first job was to work on Die Hard trilogy, which
oh my
is
gosh!
film.
Yes.
So we have talked about this on the show.
So for a year, I broke the law. Well, however many months left ahead of being 17, I broke the law, and was paid to do so by a company which theoretically should have been paid. I don't know, should have been fined.
Right.
£10,000 or something ridiculous for
something
showing
like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't
it was.
want this, so God knows how much it would
Yes.
have been.
It would have been a similar thing to when I worked my first job in a supermarket and having to ask for permission to sell alcohol to people.
Oh goodness.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
We're so British.
I'm completely
You're not old enough to do this job, but we're going to pay you to do the job, and we've got some loopholes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And the Die Hard trilogy of all things, again, which we've spoke about on the show.
Oh, the first three Die Hard films are some of my favourite of all time as well. So
this is it. Obviously, being as I say, someone who at the age of 9 was given a television, I'd already seen Die Hard, 2 or 3 times on the telly anyway. It wasn't like I was a sheltered 17-year-old. It wasn't really a problem.
Look, I was 13. I was 13 when I got my first television, and it was black and white and an antenna, which in America it's a little bit different from over here. So I could pick up 4 channels.
I had a dial.
Yeah, that's what I had. So
the UHF, it was around 48 to find the Commodore 64.
Oh wow, that's taking me back.
See, in America, I don't know how it was over here in Britain land, but in America, all the video game channels were channel 3. So that'll be a nice little nostalgia hit for our American viewers. So yeah, I had my Nintendo hooked up to that, so I had to play it in black and white. But what? So 9
8 colours anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
My black and white telly was my dad's, and it was from the 60s. My dad was in the Merchant Navy, so not only did it have a multi-volt transformer on the back of it, so you could plug it into like a boat.
Oh
12 volt.
Gosh!
You could
Yes.
also plug it into the main.
Yes.
But also because it was the late 60s when the UK had a changeover of TV quality, it literally had a switch which you could change from 405 line to 625 line.
Oh,
625 being the more modern.
Yes.
625p as everybody would know it these days. So you could go from 405p to 625p if you wanted.
That's insane.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so crazy.
I can imagine that was like going from like 720p to 1080p, like for us lot.
Yeah.
So another thing for our American versus British listeners. So I did not realize that I think it's line speed, I'm not sure, between British and American television were different. I think
We had slightly more lines. Or
Yeah.
We had rather slightly
yeah,
more lines.
yeah,
and a
it's kind
lower
of the same now,
frame
but
rate.
Yeah,
We
so
were
we
on
were
a-
50 rather than 60.
yeah, which
You-
is
You were 480.
yes,
60. We were
360.
576.
Or it's like, yeah.
it's very it's very strange, and that's why you'll see things like PAL versus NTSC.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know this until I watched. So we had a channel called PBS in the U.S. It still exists. It's the only thing that would play British television at the time. It's very different now. Satellite TV and everything's different. But at the time, so Faulty Towers would come on, and it would be fine until they went outside, and then they'd go outside, and the video would be better than what I was used to, and I was like, whoa, why does it look like someone's filming this as if they were right there? It's very, very, everything. And that's when I learned about the different, you guys had more lines, I think, than us. Yeah. It's very interesting. I mean, it's a little bit nerdy if you're not into it, but I was really into it at the time. I'm still kind of crazy about it. But yeah, to learn that, which actually speaks to the regional settings on the old consoles. We don't really have region locking now, I don't think.
Not particularly, no. We don't have that same thing with TVs either anymore.
No, we really don't, especially with satellite versus digital and all that kind of stuff. But there was a time you couldn't get a UK game and play it in the US. So
I was going to say, aren't all TVs these days 50 and 60? Because the BBC still broadcasts most things at 50 just to be a pain.
yes. I was watching something the other day and I was like, oh, this is definitely a British television show.
I'm not going to get political about the license fee.
Oh, I haven't paid my license fee in 13 years.
I'm not planning on getting one when I move, so that's just say that.
The BBC owe me several £1,000s. Let's just put it that way.
My goodness! Oh, there
wow,
you go. Okay, I'm on board for that.
The terrible Doctor Who game I mentioned earlier, they didn't pay my last invoice or two. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, right, okay.
So yeah, that's okay. So that actually goes back to what we were saying. So after the Die Hard trilogy, what came next for you, for young Paul?
Yes, let's see. Whilst I was still at Probe, I briefly worked on what would have been a fighting game with the programmer of Zool, the
yes.
and rip-off for the
Yes.
not rip-off, inspired by.
There you go.
That character that really stood the test of time.
Yes, exactly.
It's an ant, isn't it? It's an ant.
Is it?
It's an ant, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yes,
it's
it
an
was
ant.
Ninja ant.
Yeah.
Bandana.
Yep, that's right.
I feel really rude. I worked with this man. I can't even remember his name. Anyway, we're just kind of like leisurely skirting around his name. Yeah, that never really got anywhere. I made a character, and we started moving stuff around the screen, but I think he decided to do something else with a different developer or something.
Right.
He didn't stay there for very long. What did I do after that? I worked on a football game.
Right.
Football, not soccer.
Well, I was gonna say, what is it? Simple Soccer. What is that game that was on the 60s?
Sensible Soccer.
Sensible Soccer. That's it.
Which is weird because it was developed by English people who called it Sensible Soccer.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Yeah, no, I worked on a. Hang on, it's timeline. This would have been 1997. We were basically trying to get something together for the World Cup in '98.
Oh, right. Yes.
I can't remember why that fell through. I know why. I can't remember why, because basically I quit halfway through it.
Right. Okay.
Coached by someone else.
Oh, right.
But for whatever reason, we lost the World Cup license. Is there a World Cup license? I don't think
There would be for
I-
FIFA, yeah.
I would think that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
would say it
don't-
was a FIFA license. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually necessarily FIFA. I think it was something to do with something I can't remember. Like I say, I don't know football, so
Yeah.
I'm the worst person to talk about this. All I know is I was filtering motion capture data and
Yes.
out and all that.
Wow.
fun stuff.
Even back then though. That's...
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and, Probe had a small motion capture studio. I say
Wow.
studio, they basically rented a church hall every now and then, but they had enough kit and a guy with a ping pong ball.
Yes. Yes. Oh wow.
I guess the church is a good space to use it for. There's lots of
I
room
mean-
in there.
Exactly.
It's good for sound. It's also good for sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
But yeah, for whatever reason, the game changed by sort of Christmas '97 into
goodness.
'98, and we were going to do a Major League Soccer game for the States for whatever reason. So that made it even weirder. So my limited knowledge of Manchester United, Chelsea, etc., went out the window because it was now, the Seattle Crab Hawks or whatever. I don't think that's a real team.
I
not,
don't think
but
it is
it
either.
might as well be. I mean, I
But this
think
is it, my interest waned even more. It was a real effort to go into work the last couple of
I
months
bet.
because my producer was in the process of quitting as well.
Ooh,
Oh
Right.
gosh,
Well,
yeah.
it-
That would do it.
We were developing this game for the N64, so we had full N64 dev kits, and
Wow.
I'd found a totally illegal Wares with a Z.
Ah, yes,
website
yes. Good
Where
old
I could
Wares.
download N64 ROMs.
Oh no.
In January 1998, bearing in mind you were still buying N64 games for
Yes!
60 quid in the shops.
Oh,
it's been
gosh!
Me and our producer just spent, I don't know, weeks. maybe
Oh
months.
wow.
I think it was March by the time I quit in the end. Downloading N64 games, and then every now and then he would send me across the road into the train station to buy hot dogs, and then we would eat hot dogs and play more N64 games. And that was my job for like 3 months. I feel comfortable saying this because Probe went defunct years ago. They were bought by Acclaim. Acclaim went defunct. So
Yes,
the
yes.
paper trail is
So-
long dead.
Unfortunately,
But-
Probe went through some troubles.
One or two.
Yeah.
I want to explain for our listeners and watchers. Wares with a Z. It was. I can't compare it to anything. So I was about so at this time I was about 10 years old, but I was really into Wares games at the time, and there was a thing called IRC. And you could download I Got the Lemmings, and I thought I was just the hackers. I was like, I am hackers queen.
I
But,
used to feel when I was torrenting music years ago.
oh my god, yeah, don't even get started about LimeWire and all that. But there was this time to make our younger viewers, listeners, I try to kind of understand it. You could... How do you say that? It is kind of like torrenting, I guess, in a way, because it was peer-to-peer, I believe.
It was. So essentially what had happened is someone had basically got a dumper cartridge, essentially dumped all the raw data from there into a
Oh
torrent
my
file, and
gosh.
someone had shared it by that
That's
method.
my childhood, so like that.
Well, this is the thing back then, from sort
Oh,
of 93, 94 until around 2000, 2001.
Yes.
The internet was the Wild West. and as
Oh
long as you could
gosh,
get
it
online,
was. Yes.
These were
hmm
literally sites you could find using a search engine with
Yes.
bare HTML links to zip files.
Yes.
of
Yes.
Things you should be paying for, basically.
Yep.
AltaVista.com in America.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Oh my
because,
gosh. Oh.
I'm old. I was at a point just before MP3s,
Mhm.
so I can remember downloading 10, 15, 20 meg WAV files of songs
Oh
of
my
current
gosh.
albums. And because this is, 1995, 1996, the internet speed was 24K a second.
Right, yes. Yes.
So downloading 15 meg would be
know.
like 3 hours.
Yes. Because I remember downloading Halo. We're talking original Halo for the PC. So I don't know, 99? I don't know. From a Ware's channel from IRC. I had to download it in packets first of all. They broke it into packets. Yep.
Yeah, 15 meg.
Yes. And it took days, and I was so excited, and I felt like I was like I said, Queen Hacker. But this is what we had back then. And then of course
I can remember being incredibly chuffed with myself when I found a site serving Simpsons episodes in 1996. They were 160 meg, and they were 160 by 120. So 120p.
Yep.
Yes.
And they were oversaturated, so I think they were in like 256 colour. So it was, all bitty and. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It felt like the future then. I was watching telly over the internet.
Yes, exactly. No, it's true. It's so. Oh my gosh, I just remember all that all of a sudden, and the what is it? At web FMV files, stuff like that.
Oh my goodness.
I know exactly, guys. You just do not understand out there.
Okay, so what we've established on this podcast, we're all old.
We're from the 90s.
We're from the before times, the 90s.
Oh, it was the best time.
Oh gosh.
It was the best time.
Oh, I did enjoy very much that time period. I mean, like I said, Lemmings was the first Wares I ever downloaded, and then Theme Park. And it was amazing, and the internet was quite different back then. It is exactly what Paul said. It was the Wild West.
I can go one further. I got my first PC in 1992, maybe 93.
Oh my gosh.
I had an Amiga before then and the Commodore 64 before then.
Right, of course.
So, just my first IBM PC in 92, 93. And of course, at the time, there was shareware adverts.
Yes!
In the back of the magazine.
Yes.
Yes, and the discs.
Yes.
Yes!
So this is what, in fact, the first ROMs I got were a load of Commodore 64 games on disc through the mail.
Yes! See,
so I didn't even download them from somebody else downloaded them from the internet and put them on a disc and sent them to me.
See,
wow.
We at school we would trade shareware discs, and half the games wouldn't load, but the other half would load. I remember playing something called LSD Tetris, and it was just Tetris, but it was in neon green or neon colors.
Too.
Yeah, it was just. Oh my gosh! I'm just having this nostalgia burst, guys.
I just remember like taking my floppy disks into school that were labelled. Like I had a yellow, a green, a yellow, a red, and a blue one for Pokemon.
Oh my
trying to play
gosh.
those on library computers back in the early 2000s.
Oh wow! Yeah, exactly. Because that's when like your English teachers would be like, okay, you have to have a 3.5 floppy disk for this class. And so we do that to like save our work and blah blah blah. But then the rest of us, the more nerdy of us, we would start like passing our shareware and our donationware, like we'd ever donate type discs and stuff. Oh, I got Micro Machines that way.
Oh, Micro Machines.
I loved Micro Machines. Oh my gosh, we're just having a nostalgia hit.
Look, I still remember back in the day Micro Machines. I think it was Micro Machines 2 on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, as they would have called it in America.
Yes.
That had the additional controller ports on the actual cartridge itself.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was weird. It was so weird, but like. It obviously set a benchmark for what was to come later on in life, but the fact that PlayStation then made the multi-taps, Nintendo also did a similar thing as well, didn't they? So
yeah,
they were clearly ahead than them boys and girls over there.
Well, we came up through the Wild West, definitely.
We did.
I was far too young to be in the chat rooms, but I still do love those times.
When I was at school, we literally my secondary school from 11 to 16. I left school at 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day when you still could leave school at 16 rather than going on to 18 now.
We couldn't.
Yeah.
I know, but we couldn't leave in the U.S. We weren't allowed to. I got very much in trouble with the truant's officer. But anyway.
this is what I was going to say. I left school in 92 into 93. So our school had a computer room.
Oh,
which
right.
had approximately 10 or 12 RM Nimbuses, which
goodness.
ran an OS known to no man.
No!
Kind of like MS-DOS, all text prompts, but the prompts were all a bit wrong and not MS-DOS. So,
oh my
gosh!
gosh!
It was just like, oh, how do I change? How do I get to the other directory? What do I do?
Oh my gosh!
And basically, once a week we had an hour lesson in there, which was essentially strangling this OS to try and make it do something.
Oh wow!
Or basically doing typing tests where we were never taught how to type. Every now and then they timed us to see how fast we could type.
We had those.
Faster, even though they hadn't taught us how to type.
Yeah.
We definitely had typing trainer games.
We never had any of that. We literally used Lotus 123, which was.
Oh my gosh, Lotus! I haven't heard that.
Lotus 123 as well. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. It was. I mean,
none of these computers had mice. It was literally just.
Oh my gosh!
Black and white.
Wow.
Keyboard.
Yeah.
But in our library, we had an Amiga. I'm pretty sure it was 1000 because it was an older one, but it was a good older one, like a proper box.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was semi-connected to the internet, and because I was nerdy enough, the librarian would let me do stuff with it.
Yes.
That was the one saving thing.
Yes. I lived in the library with the computer. Yeah, absolutely. I will say this: the British people as a whole had a definitely advantage over the Americans in that you guys had like a BBC developer type.
We had the BBC Micro, the ZX Spectrum,
the
Commodore
ZX Spectrum.
64, the Amiga.
We had the Amiga and the Commodore 64, but they still weren't that well known. Like my dad had the Commodore, so I was very, very lucky.
Yeah.
But you guys had like a whole development machine, the BBC thing. BBC Micro. I can never remember.
To add to that, we also had the Auric, the Dragon, the Amstrad CPC.
Yes!
There were so many.
It was really pushed at...
I'm just trying to think of what friends had when I was 8 or 10.
Do you think
I had a Commodore 64 and quite a lot of friends did, but then not weird friends, but other friends would have weird things that they bring in, like a end of term day or whatever, and everyone would be like, "Wow, what's that?"
Do you think though? Do you think that access to things like the BBC one, but not just that. Do you think that encouraged people like yourself and others to go into development?
This was the thing. I talk about it with my dad quite often. Like my parents bought me a Commodore 64 because it was at the time seen as an investment for a kid, because they were marketed with educational software, mathematics stuff, and a big fat book of programming guides and stuff. So I literally learnt algebra and programming and complicated geometrics and stuff
fractals type things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was like 10 years old. So by the time we were covering them in secondary school, when I was like 12, 13, 14,
gosh.
I was like, yep, I know this. And as I say, this is why I came top of the school in maths.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very similar thing to what the Oliver twins were doing, weren't they? Where they were just sitting in their bedrooms coding constantly, and then became like absolutely advanced at computer technology, like to the point where they destroyed the UK game scene for so many years because they were so good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see, I have to say, our listeners know this, but I grew up in East Texas. Very poor child, all that kind of stuff. Hillbillies, if you know that term. But very intelligent, dropped in this kind of sea of hillbillies. And I always wondered, like, what could I have done had I had something, an access to this? I mean, the most we had just window machines. I would say probably Windows 95 or 98.
The old IBMs and stuff like that.
Old IBMs but the reason I know about fractals is because we had a computer class, and that's all he did. He was like, Kylie, let me show you how to do this. And I just built fractals over and over and over and over. I just love to watch it. It was just amazing. But I have always, since I discovered that you guys had such a investment in development machines and type of things like that, I think that was a huge advantage. It really is.
Something else which helped compared to the States, when Warner Brothers decided to decimate the video games industry in 1984.
Oh gosh, yes.
Not intentionally, one way or another.
Well,
I
was going to say a little bit intentionally, but yes.
Do we dare say its name? We didn't really have that over here. The Atari 2600 obviously was a big seller, but we had so many other consoles and machines that it didn't cause hardly any impact whatsoever. And as you say, with the Oliver twins and various other Thalamus, who did Creatures for the Commodore 64 and other games like that.
I love Creatures, but yes.
He essentially rose up in that time.
Yeah.
Like I say, a friend of mine, my old boss, at a company called Picture House, whose Commodore monitor is set up here. He worked on plenty of ports for the Commodore 64 during the 80s because the American game development scene had just collapsed on itself.
It did. It just bottomed out.
Everything was just being ported over here. So
it was.
So many arcade games were just being handled by 17-year-old nerdy English kids.
And it was always under the directive of you have about 6 to 8 weeks to port this game over to this system as well.
Outrun famously.
Oh gosh, yes.
I think it was 6 weeks by like a 16-year-old kid.
That is right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There's a YouTube video about it, but yes.
It's incredible. Like, I mean, well done to them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they've done an incredible job on that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure wasn't Manic Miner created in less than 4 weeks?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't he plan it all on paper?
Yes.
Yes.
Like on holiday for a week, and then when he came home, took another 2 weeks to write it or something.
Yeah, pretty much. It's incredible how that game actually was created by one person. It's functional.
Oh.
And then you get dev teams these days of like 200, 400, and sometimes they don't even come out functional.
No, like, we used to have a third co-host, Kieran. But he actually did a whole like expose on this guy, the developer of Aliens, which was a British development, kind of exactly what you were saying. The American development just bottomed out, in the 80s. I forget what it's called. But there's a whole like bunch of documentaries about that. The whole video game industry in America just died. It just died in the early 80s. And so a lot of development was shifted over here. One guy did the first like Aliens video game, and to read what he did as a developer on his own, it's absolutely astounding that from, I would say, I don't know, I'm guessing here, but like 1985 to 1991, the British development in games, and then it was individuals mostly that were contributing to this. I think that I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you guys are what kept the video game industry alive for that time period. Because it just literally, you cannot know unless you go watch the biographies or the documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom just dropped. I think it was 1981 or something like that. Just
1983 video game crash.
Yeah, video game crash. That's it.
Christmas '83, wasn't it?
Oof.
It was, yeah. And unfortunately,
It was meant to be the big seller, and it was the opposite.
Yeah, it was a common misconception for the longest time that Americans thought that the video game market completely bottomed out.
And then
there was people like us that kept saying, yeah, we never had that, and they were like, no, that's not true. It's like, no, and then you go back and show them all these Spectrum, Commodore 64 games,
exactly,
and you're like, yeah, this is what we had. You had nothing.
We had nothing.
Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy.
Yes.
Predate Mario by a year, 18 months, or Super Mario.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
And even then,
like platformers go, like there's quite a lot pre-Mario.
Yes.
Yeah, and Manic Miner was the first game to ever have music in as well.
Oh wow! I didn't realize
constant.
that.
Yeah.
Like soundtrack, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was insane. Like, so when we got to experience all of that, you guys didn't know about it until much later on, when you could research on the internet.
Well, see, that's the funny thing. Like, I've said this before. I had an older brother. He had bought a Nintendo when it first came out, and then it went to me as he got older and blah, blah, blah. So I was playing original NES, probably 10 years after it was launched. But one thing I noticed was Maniac Mansion, which I had on Nintendo, didn't have, or I think it didn't have the music, which was weird because the Commodore 64 version did have the music.
Yeah.
And it was very strange to be playing this game in like almost complete silence. And and it was very strange. And there's a couple of games like that. I can't remember. I was actually looking through a list. There's a guy on YouTube who went through all of the old like Game Informer and all those kind of old magazines and stuff. Yeah. And he ranked, based on those old reviews, he ranked all the Sega Master System games based on their reviews. You'd be surprised what came in at number 1. I'm going to go ahead and give it away because it's still a good video,
I'm interested.
Desert Strike, which is a good game, don't get me wrong. That was number 1.
Probably not what I would imagine would have been number 1.
Exactly. Like, again, a good game. I do remember it. My brother was crazy about it. But as number 1... But anyway, he did base that all on, he went through old magazines and almost Metacritic type of thing. But it was a really good kind of history lesson on, the way the games that we've come through. And it's very true. Commodore 64 games, or sometimes the Amiga, would have almost superior games. And then they'd be ported to, let's say, the NES or the Sega Master System, and the quality would drop, or the music would be taken out or something like that, which is kind of sad because I think Americans we lost a lot of quality that you guys probably got on a lot of things. Definitely. Yeah. And in fact, I would say Lemmings is probably one of those things because the Lemmings wares that I got on PC, the music, which I think was all like whatever it's called, where you can have free music.
Public domain.
Yeah, public
Yeah.
domain. You know, I think it was all public domain, but
There's a lot of that in Horace.
yeah.
I noticed
Excellent.
that, yeah.
Okay. But Lemmings on Super Nintendo didn't have all of the music, even though it was public domain. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Lemmings, the game that had several thousand ports.
Oh, I love Lemmings so much. Lemmings and Worms, that was me as a child.
They're good, yeah. So, yeah.
Briefly
I was going to
worked
say.
on Lemmings.
Oh, very nice. So, we,
Nice.
last couple of questions.
Yes, go for it.
So, I meant, did you have any more questions?
Oh, no, I thought you were going to talk
more
about...
aware of the time than anything. So.
Oh, yeah, no, chat is just completely full of questions. I haven't been ignoring you, chat, I promise. I just was in a nostalgia hit.
So let me scroll through and see if there's any. So, yeah. If you got any more questions. So, Nana asked, how much did you have to scale down from your initial idea?
We got that one. Yeah, we
asked that one already.
We did. Yeah.
So this one we didn't. What era of films and games would you say inspire you the most?
Oh, films are most eras, most of the 20th century, I think. I'm trying to think what the earliest reference I've got. Yeah, I don't know, sort of 40s to 2000, I think, films.
Yeah.
And then
Excellent
games is
era.
very much late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
95 to 2010.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like, yeah.
There's another one. So how long did it take you to learn pixel art?
Oh, that was very much innate, to be honest. I was pixeling before I had a computer. My dad worked at the local paper mill, so he would bring me home paper.
wow.
I swear that's why I'm a good artist, because
Aww.
to keep me quiet, he would give me paper and I would sit in the corner and draw. But once I knew about video games, once I was sort of 5 or 6 and played Pac-Man, Space Invaders and the rest of it, I understood the concept that it was drawn on grid with little dots. And my dad started bringing home graph paper in pads and stuff. So I would literally sit and draw that. And then I knew I was getting a Commodore 64 for Christmas that year. So in the run up to that, I used to get computer magazines like Computer and Video Games and Commodore User and stuff like that. And I would copy the pixel art from there actually onto physical paper with like a biro and all the rest of it. And then it just sort of grew from there. As I say, I was always a good artist, so it was just a case of working out how to make that work in squares.
That's excellent. And for our US listeners, a biro is a ballpoint pen.
Sorry.
That's fun. I think that's it for questions, actually.
All right.
Yeah, because there was a couple of questions related to a certain Street Fighter 6 in the chat for me, so I've been answering those.
Yes, Pete is our resident fighting game person, aficionado. But yeah, no, that is amazing. I guess it's probably time to wrap it up, even though I just want to talk about the 90s forever.
Yep. Look, we could go on nostalgia trips for the 90s for the next 3 hours, but I'm aware that we've taken a lot of your time already.
Let me tell our listeners and our watchers, if you too are drawn in by nostalgia, as I am, again, go out and get Horace. It really does hit all of those nostalgia buttons. Look in the background because there's a lot of Easter eggs. And
yeah, I do have to say that I was going in expecting just a bog standard, side-scrolling platformer. I did not expect what I was given, and I was very pleasantly surprised by it.
Excellent.
There are definitely levels, not just levels that you played through, but levels of depth. And it shines through. We do hope to see much more of the Horace cinematic universe. But
yeah, I expect to see Horace on my cinema screen in the next 4 years.
There you go. Oh my gosh.
Boring.
There you go.
It's not me.
You have to do it right now.
It only took Illumination 7 years for Mario and Nintendo.
Goodness.
So.
Oh goodness.
Well, I do own 3D Studio.
There you go.
So I can put something together.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable experience, as I said it would be. Did you ever doubt me? Of course not. We've enjoyed having Paul Hillman here. I can't believe, like, we love when we have the actual devs here. We've had 3 or 4 devs, and it is always a kind of revelation to see what happens in the background, because everyone that watches and listens to the show, we're all gamers. We have a passion for games, and to find out how it goes behind the scenes, for me personally, adds a depth that I wouldn't otherwise know. It's an art form, it's a lifestyle, it is amazing. The talent that it takes to produce these just these experiences, because that's what they are for us. They're experiences. And Horace is an experience. Please go download it. But thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. We've enjoyed having you. Maybe we'll have you back in the future. Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, do you want to take a few moments to plug whatever you want to plug?
There you go. Yes, plug away.
Me? I don't have anything to sell. My Horace is as a robot. And look, my sister gave me a really nice. I used to play drums. I still do play drums sometimes.
Oh, that's
very
very
nice.
cool.
Nice little drum kit lapel thing. So
That's very cool. Very cool.
That's very
So
cool.
I'm plugging these people. I can't remember what they're called, but it was a nice little thing that they made.
Today I watched a guy on, I think, YouTube. I think he's Italian. He has 2 hands, but he drums one-handed. It was
Wow.
very, like,
Nice.
yeah, well, it kind of blew my mind, and I had to watch a couple of his videos because it was just like, what? But
That's impressive.
anyway, those thoughts aside, Paul, is there a way for people to enjoy your presence out there with social media or anything? Would you like to plug any of that?
I am Horace Dev on Twitter. HORACEDEV. Can't see. And there is a Horace Discord channel, but I don't really know how to plug that. Do I have to give an invite or something? I don't really know.
I don't know how Discord
There's
works.
usually a link to it, and it will have an invite. I'll try and find it and see if I can pop it in the show notes for people who want to join.
Awesome.
That's good. As
I
everyone...
mean, I do own paulhelman.co.uk, but
there you
there's been on there for nearly a decade, I think. I took
Oh,
it down.
gosh.
Basically, when I started working on Horace seriously, because it
Oh,
used to be my
goodness.
portfolio, and I loaded my work up on there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did that back in the day, too. I owned KyleyMcLeod.com. I don't know who owns it now. Yeah, my portfolio is up there.
It's useful for dev purposes, because I own, obviously, the email address, paul@paulhelman.co.uk.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
Obviously, Sony and other people are like, you need your own email address at your own email provider to be able to sign up with this, that, and the other, and it's like, okay,
All right,
I'll use that one.
That makes sense.
It's at least kind of useful to keep it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that is true. That's actually a very good point.
But, so we'll include links to Discord and links to the Steam page and the Switch eShop page and everything for people to download.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's on all the consoles and everything.
Yes! No! You're doing great! It's wonderful. Everyone go get this game now.
I make games, I don't sell them. I work with publishers. They do that.
See? That's why I get hired for PR, so I can just be like, go, buy this game now!
That's fair enough. I would guess that's why you also had a contribution from one Sean Hughes, who was an ex-writer at Rapid Reviews UK.
Oh, yes. Oh, very good. So Pete, what about you? How can they find you out there in the social media land?
So usually Twitter at Pete Beckett 1 and ramble about games, movies and other things, technically. And have a bit of a moan sometimes when people post spoilers to Zelda.
Oh, don't do that. Yeah. People don't post spoilers. I hate that.
Kylie, what about you?
I'm not actually on much social media anymore. But if you're really into CrossFit, I am over on Instagram, although I haven't updated it in over a month or so. But anyway, I'm at Kiley Yellick. But I am at Kiley Yellick on all of my platforms, all my consoles, gaming platforms. Yeah. And now that I've discovered Luna, that might be a literal game changer. Because I have my Amazon Fire Stick hooked up to my 4K projector, and I played Resident Evil 2 the remake the other night. That was kind of cool to just be like, push a button and there's a game. That's really, really cool. I dig that. But anyway, we want to thank our wonderful guest for being here, Paul Helman, again, of Horace fame. And we hope to have him on again in the future. But this was so much fun. Again, Horace is a great game, but also the nostalgia trip is so much fun.
Thank you very much, Paul, for coming on. It was much appreciated. It's always nice to talk to a fellow Brit about classic video games.
There you go. Well, yes.
Thanks for having me.
Our quintessentially British game. It really is, though, for real. But we, as always, we thank our listeners and our watchers for joining us every week. You could join. Well, you could join, but you could also listen or watch anyone in. The fact that you choose to spend your time with us, it literally means the world to us. I cannot thank you enough for our wonderful listeners, our wonderful chat who has participated in this. But having said all of that, I think we'll wrap up the podcast portion. We'll spend a couple of minutes on Twitch and before we end for the night. But for now, we will see you and talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thus ends the podcast portion and begins our Twitch portion. Oh, that's wonderful. Pete, do you want to read Nana's comment?
Yes, absolutely. So he said, this has been wonderful. I love the Deb interviews. Gives a lot of insight into working into an actual studio, which I really want to do someday. And Paul's passion for making games over 13 years. I wish you the best in whatever wherever life takes you next, sir.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Nana is a 3D artist.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he's just graduated uni, so he's just getting his foot in the door. But very talented young man.
Yeah, often posts a lot of his stuff on 3D Blender up on Twitter. So very interesting what he's doing. He does quite a lot with certain Street Fighter characters as well, such as a lot of animations to do with that. So yeah, it's very cool. Very good work.
You know, that makes me think though. Paul, have you ever felt like a draw literally, to like, 3D art or anything like that? Or is your like purview, your whole wheelhouse, it's pixel art?
I've done 3D art. I worked in-house up until the PS2 era.
Right.
So I'm slightly distracted. I can't actually find it. Somewhere. Oh, there it is, I think. Yes, there we go. Here's a game I did some 3D art for a PS1 game.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that for years.
I know. Whoa, PS1. Oh.
No, I just meant that game.
Oh.
I used to remember seeing that in like Electronics Boutique so many years ago. That's back before it turned game.
Summer 2000 that came out.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It came out approximately a month before the PS2.
Yeah, I was going to say very late. Very late into the PS1's development cycle.
We worked on this for 2.5, 3 years. It got incredibly good reviews, and nobody bought it because everybody bought a PS2 instead.
Yeah, like I mean, that's about the era where I personally bought my first console, which was a PS2. I had to save up for it and everything like that. But I eventually bought a PS1 at what we call a pawn shop. You guys have like cash converters or whatever.
But,
yeah. And I just remember, like, don't get me wrong, I love PS2. That is my era. But the PS1 games, the library was so vast and stuff like that. I could absolutely be wrong here, but I never felt like any of the libraries up until PS3 quite stacked up, because there was just so many games for the PS1. And of course Final Fantasy VII came out on PS1. And I still remember that was the first game I bought. And unfortunately, again, I bought it at a pawn shop, so disc number 3 was scratched. So I got stuck on disc number 2, where I just grinded for like 3 months until I could afford to buy another copy. And then I just was like so OP'd. It was great. I just sailed to the end. But anyway, it was such a... I'm not saying that now isn't a good time for games, but I do have nostalgia glasses on. But there was this time period, I'd say from 95 to 2005, where just the amount of games and the different kinds of games that would come out was just, it was mind-blowing. Because you had Final Fantasy VII, and then you had Halo. It was just...
This is it. Lots of bigger publishers and larger devs would take bigger risks.
Yes!
So AAA games that were absolutely insane.
Yes!
And they wouldn't always work, and they weren't always great, but they weren't always the same bloody thing.
Right, exactly that. And I do kind of get this feeling that nowadays there is it's kind of the same thing with Hollywood as well. We're just retreading these same,
It's good, but it's just the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would like to see something different. I would like to see something break out, type of thing. And I mean, I've said this before. I said this earlier even in the show. I really haven't bought anything new. I just haven't. I feel terrible about that, but nothing has just caught that, that fire.
I have to be careful because I always feel like I'm Martin Scorsese.
Yes,
Marvel films.
But he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I'm an old bloke. I don't like new stuff.
I mean, the thing was this, because I was actually reading some stuff. Actually, no. Okay, so as our listeners know, I'm rewatching House MD. So today's episode had Jeremy Renner in it, which made me start thinking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's crazy. But it made me start thinking. So, like, when the very first Marvel movies came out, I was a little bit like, because I'm a comic book reader, hardcore, I was a little hesitant with the comic book movies because they weren't quite accurate. But, I watched the first couple and I liked them, blah, blah. But then suddenly it became very formulaic and everything's the same and it kind of lost its glimmer, its luster. And that, I think, is what Martin Scorsese was really remarking on, was that it's the sameness, and type of thing. And then the newest, was it Phase 4, Pete? Is that what it's called?
Affectionately known as Phase Bore.
Okay. And Pete does another podcast about Marvel movies. And it's just been, for me personally. Now, I will say this week is my birthday week, so I'm going to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I will reserve judgment. But holy crap! It has just went, whoo. He wasn't wrong. Scorsese wasn't wrong.
No.
Which some people get really upset about that, but I mean, it's not good.
I've seen one film at the cinema this year.
Oh,
whenever I explain it to people, I always sound like the biggest hipster. Because it's a film called, I don't know if you've heard of it, Ennis Men.
No, I haven't.
It's it's sort of psychological horror.
Right, okay. I like that.
Lady goes mental on an island off of Cornwall.
Oh.
But it's all shot on 16mm film.
Oh, that's cool.
It's all developed and all the technique applied is traditional 60s and 70s film technique.
Oh, I like that a lot.
So it looks and feels like a creepy film from the 70s.
Oh,
Nice.
now that, yeah.
So I had to go to the cinema to see it.
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
If you get the chance to see it at the cinema, I really recommend it. It was like a feature showing at our local one for like a week or something. So me and a couple of friends went to it. Well, no, me and a friend went to it. But yeah, I'd very much recommend that. It's
that's
a bit weird.
Weird is good. I love weird.
Yeah. There's not very much dialogue.
No, there's been some
great woman wandering around
like
by herself, looking at flowers.
No, there's some great stuff, especially out of the 60s and 70s, where there's no dialogue. And it's just a vibe. It's just an ambiance. And it is, like, terrifying. Oh, I love it so much. Old Boy, I think, is one of those as well.
Old Boy doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's very good for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's very shocking.
Yes. Yes. You can't really take modern sensibilities into that. Yeah, no. Actually, you know what? Talking about being there, the Peter Sellers movie, there is a movie out that is it's weird. It's kind of in the same vein, and I've now forgotten the full name of it, but it's Joaquin Phoenix, and it's like...
Beau's Afraid.
That's it. Yes, Beau's Afraid. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. It made me instantly think of that, and I'm kind of thinking I just love anything Joaquin Phoenix is in anyway. But we are speaking, again, for our audience, it's weird. If you don't like weird, you won't like it. But I love weird. I would love to see... so during the 60s and 70s, maybe early 80s, there was a auteur type cinema where it was really... It was just very, very artistic. That's really, I could say, like Dog's Day, Afternoon, all this kind of like, just very art house cinema stuff was mainstream. And then we just kind of lost it. Don't get me wrong, I do love the 80s kind of, Die Hard type of, RoboCop, all that kind of stuff, Total Recall, all that stuff. I do love that. But I kind of miss that art house thing. And I would love to see that as a revival in cinema.
I agree. It would be nice to see it again in certain films.
Yeah.
Going back to being a child with a television far too young.
Yes, that's great.
I know all of 70s, 60s, 70s, a lot of 80s cinema from Channel 4 showings late at night.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I was going to say in the 80s into the 90s. You got absolute insanity. Once you hit around midnight, you did not know what would be.
Yes.
One night it would be Godzilla. The next night it would be some insane horror film from China or like Finland or whatever. Like it was just anything.
Like
it was a lot of those evenings was where my dad would find some very unusual films and then tell me about them.
Well, like I was saying, we had what was called PBS, Public Broadcasting System, and that's, we got our British television from there, and I got a little bit of exposure there. But one night, they showed this film that it was insane, and it's kind of known now, but when I was like 7, 8, 9, it wasn't known. It was Zardoz.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
I was just like, the whole time, I was just like, what? This is a thing? Oh, for 9-year-old me, that was like, this is insane. Please, if you've never heard of Zardoz, you need to go look that up. That is absolutely insane. But that was the kind of level of stuff that they would show. And I'm actually very glad I was exposed to that. Because, like I said, that would be, 95, 96, 97 for me. Which the movies at that time, Interview with a Vampire, I think I remember that being out. I don't remember a lot of movies from them, Pete.
There's a lot of movies.
I don't remember. But yeah. So, it'd be great. I hope we get a return to art house cinema, and I think that we will. I really do.
Eventually, we probably will once the big budget blockbuster Marvel movies have sort of waned a little bit more.
I think
you'll start to get a bit more experimentation.
I think we're in that era, and actually Martin Scorsese has a new movie out, which I do want to see. I don't care. People, and I think Pete, you've said this before. People are just like, oh, that's so overrated. I love Godfather 1 and 2. I think they're wonderful. And
It's been a long time since I've seen them. Of course, I've only seen them once each.
I love them.
In the song, to be honest.
Oh goodness, I love them. I'm a sucker. First of all, I'm a sucker for mobster / gangster movies. Now, Godfather Part 3. No, it can jump in a lake. It's terrible. It is awful. I rewatched it.
Not saying anything.
I rewatched it recently just to be sure that, you know, I wasn't influenced by other influences. Yeah. No, it's terrible. But Godfather 1 and 2 are just astounding. Dog Day Afternoon. Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah, that's another one that, you know, if you're into cinema, oh God, just 70s cinema. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because it's actually getting kind of late.
It is indeed.
It is. But we have absolutely enjoyed having Paul here. It's just been amazing. Again, I want to reiterate, go out, get Horace. It's on all the platforms. You can't miss it. You will enjoy it. It is a game, like, at first you don't realize it. You think it's kind of just a 2D scroller platformer. I know there's a lot of depth there. Mm-hmm. You're going to enjoy it very much. Pete, do you want to say anything to wrap it up before I wrap up?
Not really, no. Just reiterate again, thank you, Paul. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate this.
Yes.
Obviously, it's been a few weeks in coming, and, you know, last week was obviously not intended, but,
yeah.
You know, work got in the way, so I didn't get the chance to play the game, but now that I got the chance to play it, I feel a lot more comfortable talking about it with you. So appreciate you obviously pushing this back another week, you know,
yes,
to discuss this. So, but yeah, thank you again for your time and your insight, obviously, into the, you know, the UK game scene and the development insight as well. So I look forward to seeing what you're doing next as well.
Oh, definitely.
Might be a while coming. I'm very slow at these things.
It's fine. I can wait. I am a patient one.
Yeah. This is what is it? Quality comes with time.
I like the Miyamoto quote.
Yeah.
I know what you're gonna say.
I'm not even gonna try it. If you know it, please say it.
Yes. Pete, we quote it quite often on here.
A rushed game will always be bad. Yeah, a game. I can't.
A good game is always good.
Weird. It's a hard quote to remember.
A good game is always good, but a rushed game.
Basically, you should take time on games.
Yes.
No matter how long it takes, it will be good in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. Never rush an artist to create art.
Yes, and we do agree to that.
Yeah.
We have quoted that actual quote many times, but you know.
But usually I have it to hand. To quote it.
All right. Thank you so much to our watchers as we're on the stream on Twitch.
Yeah. Thank you, chat. You've absolutely smashed it today.
You have. You've been absolutely wonderful. We appreciate you guys being here. Because, you know, it's Sunday night and you choose to hang out with us, and I love that. But anyway, thank you all so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.